Hey everyone, it's Kelsey here again with another one of our Riverside chats. And today we have none other than tour event herself, Juliana Korver. Everyone, welcome Juliana.
Hi, everyone.
We're going to jump right on into the BioBlast segment, which is where you have 30 seconds to tell us 5 facts that people might not already know about you. So you're kind of starting off in the hot seat. How do you feel?
I'm ready. Swimming was my very first competitive sport. I started that at age 5. I spent a lot of time climbing trees as a child. I broke my left arm 4 times in about 18 months between the ages of around 4 and 6. I was pretty rough as a kid. I have been as tall as I am, which is about 5'11", since 12 or 13 years old. Was pretty hard at that time. I like it now.
You seem to have like an adventurous childhood with the swimming and the tree climbing and breaking your arm. I mean, wow, that's kind of did a lot of crazy things, it sounds like.
Well, I lived in the country on 15 acres, and I had one older brother who I just followed around and pretended I could do everything that he could, and proved to myself that that was not the case.
So, for over the last around 10 years or so, you've really delved into other disc sports. And I'm a beginner. I have absolutely no idea what overall or freestyle is. So, could you just give us a brief explanation of what those are and kind of how they differ from the professional disc golf world that we know and love?
Sure. Well, the biggest difference is there is zero money in freestyle or overall. None. You're doing it just for the pure love of the game. And actually, initially, decades ago, there really wasn't a dedicated disc golf anything. When people were frisbee players, they were overall players, and they would do many different disciplines. So an overall is like a pentathlon or heptathlon, I guess, because there are 7 events. Every event is disc related. Disc golf is one of them. Distance, accuracy, discathon, freestyle, self-caught flight. You compete over a week's time and you play each one of these events. And then at the end of the competition, you get points for where you end up in each discipline. And then the person with the most cumulative points at the end of the week wins the overall. Freestyle is one of those disciplines. Maybe the hardest to learn. Freestyle is an art. It evolved from simply playing catch. It's usually a pairs event that is choreographed to music, and it's judged on difficulty, artistic value, and execution. So players will be passing the disc back and forth, restricted manner under the leg, behind the back, around the ankles, behind the neck, doing all kinds of fancy catches, working with the disc. One of the building blocks of freestyle is what's called a nail delay. So they're spinning the disc on their finger, and then they can manipulate the disc as it's spinning on their finger. It's truly a beautiful thing to watch. If you haven't seen any freestyle, I really recommend that you go onto YouTube and search for Frisbee Freestyle, and you will be blown away by some of the beauty and mastery that these athletes have.
How did you make the transition from, professional disc golf into this freestyle overall? And like, how did you get into it?
So I had been out of disc golf for a number of years, and there happened to be, DDC, that's the one I missed, Double Disc Court. There happened to be a DDC tournament in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. My dad lived there at the time, and any excuse to go see my dad was a wonderful excuse. So I went, and I actually sent a message to the tournament director and said, I'm terrible. Is it okay if I come and play anyway? And he said, yes, absolutely, come and play. And a couple of people there thought they saw that I had potential, took me aside, and sort of convinced me that I should start playing the overalls. And unfortunately, the overalls are kind of a dying sport. And at, mid 40s at the time, early 40s, I was considered young in the freestyle world. So I don't know, it had just been long enough that I was kind of interested in competing again. And this was tangential to disc golf. And so it just seemed like a good fit. and it gave me something to work for again.
So, from a 5-time world champ, many more world champ titles and overall, what are 2 or 3 things or traits that someone needs to have in order to win worlds? And you have 30 seconds to answer, so give them to me quick.
Confidence, fire, perseverance. In 1993, I went to my first Worlds. I'd been playing less than a year. I was just spectating, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, really, because while I was watching the women of the day play, something just clicked, and I made a promise to myself that I would work as hard as and as long as it took to have the skills that those women did. And so that lit a fire under me, and that was really the most important thing.
Juliana, I'm sure you've heard, but it's a big year for Innova this year, 40 years, so big birthday. And we're kind of celebrating by asking everyone what Innova means to them. So kind of explain to us what being a part of this team means to you and maybe the community of disc golf.
I have a lot of pride being with Innova for so long. Innova has defined and designed much of what disc golf is today. Innova has always been a leader in the sport. When I started playing the overall, I actually learned quite a bit about the founders of the sport that I didn't know previously. So they were all part of the Frisbee world before disc golf was now I would say disc golf is the main disc sport out there. But at the time, it was just one of many. And, Tim Selinsky was a great guts player. Donna Pace was known for his distance. All of them played DDC. So they've all been around for the birth and actually, were responsible for disc golf becoming the primary event out of all of those. So they really, really should be proud of themselves. And I'm very proud to represent a company that has taken our sport and pushed it forward to such great lengths.
Another hot seat segment for you, Juliana. We have disc talk, and we're going to do 3 discs that have been the most important to you during your disc golf career and why.
Very easy to pick my first disc. That's the AVR X. That disc was made for me when I joined Team Innova back in 2000, and I have had my name on it ever since, and it remains one of actually, I think it is my favorite disc to throw. And this is a putter. This is my favorite disc to throw. And it doesn't matter, sure, it's fun to watch fast discs go far, but I really enjoy controlling a slower disc, and the AVRX is just a beautiful disc off the tee. Second one, probably easy to guess as well, the Valkyrie. Those of you who have been around long enough and can remember the JK Valkyrie. I was the first woman to have my name put on a disc by Innova, and that's beside the JK. The JK AVR came first, but not by much. And it's a little different because the JK AVR was made for me, and the Valkyrie was more of, it wasn't called a Tour Series disc, but that's more of the role that it had with my name on that particular disc. And for my arm speed at the time, the Valkyrie was the best disc on the market. It was such a great low ceiling straight flyer. It's still a good disc, and I was just very, very proud to be able to have my name associated with that wonderful disc. On the third disc that I'm going to choose is the red first run Candy TLs. So it was revolutionary when the CE plastic came out. So this is basically the predecessor to all the fancy plastic out there right now, to Champion plastic. It was so superior in grip, in durability, in beauty. Before that, most of the discs were kind of dull in color and luster, and the Candy discs were just striking. And I was at Innova once, and I saw a box full of old, well, they weren't old, but they were X-Out TLs, red Candy TLs. They just had a few dimples in the rim, and I asked Dave about them, and he said, "Oh, it doesn't affect the flight, but we can't sell them." And he's like, "If you want them, just take them." And so I got my hands on quite a few at the time, and it became just a magic disc for me. Just I could put that on a straight line after I learned the angles with a nice hyzer flip, and it was just money. I just loved that disc. And today, the Roadrunners do a similar flight for me. But at the time, that was again just completely revolutionary.
Mental game is something that's super important on the course, even off the course. So, how do you stay mentally tough on the course, and how has your mental game changed throughout the years?
That's a loaded question. Uh, I don't know that I do a good job of it anymore. In fact, I have gotten progressively worse, perhaps, on the mental side of things, which might seem ironic. I can remember a time when I was on the top of my game where internally I had the most confidence, possibly. Like the internal dialogue was I'd be getting ready to throw, and I was like, internally I'd be saying, "Oh, everybody, you have to watch this shot. This is just going to be the best shot. You're going to be amazed. Come on, turn around, watch this shot, watch this shot." And at some point, somehow anxiety crept in, and I ended up the internal dialogue was more like, maybe just turn around while I throw this because I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. I don't know. Who knows? I've read so many self-help books, and it may never be solved, and it may be why sports are so interesting, because some people are able to overcome these anxieties and some people aren't. Um, Unfortunately, it seems like the less that it matters, the easier it is. So a lot of players that have troubles can play very well in practice rounds, very well with their buddies, but then once it's tournament time, um, maybe those little putts are terrifying. It's such a quandary. I now just sort of wear it on my sleeve that I do have difficulties, and it's usually the easiest shots that are the most difficult. I typically don't have worries over the tee. I'm not saying I don't have bad tee shots, but I don't worry about the bad shots. I don't worry that there might be a bad shot, and if there is, I'm not worried that it's going to snowball.
We're already in the midst of the 2023 season as we know it. I don't know how we got here already, but here we are. And looking forward for you, what does competing look like for you in the coming years? How are your goals changing for yourself as you go into each new season?
This year is kind of a transition year for me in that I'm doing more commentary, and I'm still playing the elite circuit, but I believe I'm taking 8 events out to do commentary instead of playing. And I suspect that I am going to up the number of commentary and decrease the number of elite events as we move forward. I definitely love being able to play with the top players right now. I can see physically that I'm starting to decline just a little bit. A couple years ago, when I first came out on tour, I wasn't playing my best, and my best now is not what my best used to be, but I felt like if I could get close to my best, that I would be able to be close to the top of the field. And I hate to say it, but I don't really feel that way anymore. I feel like now my best will be caching, and it's disheartening. But I'm 52 years old, and I'm grateful that I have been able to come back and experience the tour, the current tour, firsthand. And I I also think that it sets me up better to be able to do the commentary, knowing what it feels like to play under the lights, and then I've played with most of these women now, and so I think this has been a very good way to get into the booth and to do the commentary. And I'm not sure that I would have had the confidence to be able to sit there and do so if I hadn't actually played in those circumstances to begin with.
So, speaking of you doing commentary more now, this season especially, what role do you play in commentary?
I do color commentary for the FPO, so I kind of analyze the course, and the way that the women are throwing. And um, it's, you know, it's a job that I never would have guessed that I would have done because um, I'm actually off the charts introverted. So to be on camera myself or on a mic is not my favorite thing to do. But I, if I'm going to speak about something, if I'm going to, disc golf is that something. I have 30 years of experience in the sport. And so this is something that I do feel like I have some expertise that I can bring to the audience.
But have you ever thought to yourself, like prior to starting commentary, that you had a commentator voice? Did that ever occur to you and you were like, oh, this would be great to hear?
No, 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 no. I actually thought that, when asked to do it, I thought it was despite the fact that I did not have a commentary voice. So no. Uh, it was actually Jonathan Poole who got me in the booth initially, and this was for Throw Pink. Gosh, I don't know, 3 years ago now. And he sent me a message and wanted me to do commentary, and I politely declined. And he waited an appropriate amount of time, and he asked me again, and I more sternly declined. And finally, on the third ask, I thought, well, this opportunity keeps presenting itself, and so I feel like I need to give it a chance. And I'm glad that I did. I feel like still have a long way to go in improving, but it's yet another avenue and another gift that the sport has put in front of me.
Okay, last segment. This is always a super fun one. We have the Fast Five. And I'm not sure if you've seen my other videos, but the Fast Five is where I ask you 5 random questions, and you have 15 seconds to give me an answer for each of them. Question 1, what is your favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
I would say the worst day of the week is Tuesday. I don't know how you feel about that.
I don't know. Wednesdays were always kind of my slow day. I like Tuesdays.
Question 2, what has been your favorite disc golf course that you've ever played on?
Yarva in Sweden.
Question 3, where would your dream vacation be?
New Zealand. I have had the pleasure of traveling to New Zealand once in my life, and it was just the most stunning, serene, beautiful, unbelievably magical place ever. And, it's so kind. There's no flora or fauna that wants to hurt you. It's just a very, very wonderful place.
Question 4, what was the last TV show or movie that you watched?
Oh, it was, I don't even know the name of it. It was like the 4th installment of the Bourne series. But Jason Bourne was not in it. He was just referred to. I was partially watching while I was studying something else.
Last question. If you could only have one meal or snack for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That is hard. Oh, gosh. This sounds boring, but I'm going to have to go with some kind of vegetable stir fry because there's a little bit of variety there. But definitely vegetable heavy and hopefully on the healthy side.
All right, Juliana, well, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I had so much fun chatting with you and getting to know you a little bit more.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.